Okay, so today we're gonna talk about something pretty freaking cool. I'm gonna try to be quick with this, which is kind of difficult for me because I like to be thorough in my explanations of things. This is the Orange O-Tone 40. This is a 40-watt solid state amp. It's single channeled. It has one clean channel. It has a digital spring reverb emulation in it, and it also has an analog tremolo, which the circuit is a bias wobble tremolo, similar to what like an old Princeton would have, except this doesn't use valves or tubes. It uses JFETs inside of it, and the circuitry or the topology, a word that I don't quite understand in the context of electrical engineering, but it's what the founder, or the designer over at Orange Amps uses when he's describing the amp. So my favorite amplifier is my Roland Jazz Chorus 40. However, before my gig on Saturday night, the Jazz Chorus crapped out. Now I took my Moore tube engine, which I've made a video about on this channel, to the gig, and it was a non-mic'd gig. So, excuse me, I ended up using a giant Fender DeVille that was way louder than what I'm used to. And yeah, I got home. I planned on using the Moore tube engine for tonight's gig, but when I plugged in the Moore tube engine at home, it's emitting some weird noises. So that means 2 amps I'm gonna have to get checked out. So I ordered this O-Tone 40 because I was excited about it and thinking about getting it down the line anyway. Orange came out with this, as well as 3 of their amps in their baby series. This was pretty cheap. It's got a 12-inch speaker. It's very lightweight. It weighs about 20 pounds, which is lighter than the dumbbells that I use to work out. And I'll give you a quick summary. It sounds really good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play my Gretsch G5655T. I'm gonna go directly into the amp first and let you hear some of the sounds. And then I'm gonna plug in my pedal board. So I'm gonna try to make this video in just 2 cuts, not edit it. I'm using my phone instead of my camera because when I was watching either the review of this amp or the review, or Orange's reviews, mind you, Orange's videos on either this amp or the baby series, a lot of people were complaining that they're using a bunch of guitar pedals and they're not playing it clean, and they're using all this processing in these microphones. You guys have seen my video, you know I have mics, I have preamps, I have a mixing board. I could use all of that stuff, but instead I'm gonna do this through the camera mic. And the reason I'm choosing the camera mic instead of I'm using the phone and its microphone instead of my camera mic is because everyone has a phone. Most people use an iPhone these days, and therefore will be familiar with how things sound through it. So this will give you a pretty accurate representation of that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is show you the amp. Let's show you what's on the amp. I'm gonna plug into it, and I'm gonna turn you over. So this is the reverb control here, right? There's also a headphone out, and there's an auxiliary in, which I might never use. I don't know, it depends. And then this is the tremolo, the controls for the tremolo. So this is the tremolo depth. You see there's a shark fin with an arrow pointing down. And this is the time. I like to play with it over here. This is the setting on the tremolo that I'm gonna play for you later on. This is the bass control. You see the bass clef. This is the middle, 2 arrows pointing to a circle in the center. And this is the treble. And this is the volume. And this 40-watt solid state amp is very, very loud. In fact, I'm gonna gig with this amp tonight at my Tuesday night residency at Harvard and Stone in Hollywood. If you're nearby, come on and check it out. There's tonight and 2 more weeks. So now I'm going to move the phone back and play a few things through it. So the one thing about the amp that I don't like is that the power button, the power switch is on the back of the amp. And I really hate having to go to the back of an amp for almost anything. Now the effects loop and the foot switch things and the line out, those are all on the back of the amp as well, but those I don't mind. It's just the power switch being on the back that bugs me, but it's really just a nitpick. So, okay. So this is, let me turn everything off. So no reverb. All of the EQ is up the middle right now. And right now I'm at 9 o'clock on the amp. I'm on the neck pickup. Okay, I'm gonna go up to 12 o'clock on the amp. Coming through, but I'm behind the amp, and in my apartment right now it is like ridiculously loud, and it's only halfway up, so I'm only gonna get a little bit louder than this. Too loud to play in an apartment. That's about as loud on it. That's a little louder than I'm gonna play at tonight's gig, honestly, because I'm gonna have the amp mic'd up and there's just no need for that volume. So, okay, let's go to the middle. Spring reverb, right? So there we are without. Now I've got the reverb up louder than I'll ever use it. The reverb is at noon now. Actually a little bit below 9 o'clock, so I guess we call this like what, 7 o'clock? 8 o'clock, about 8 o'clock, that's where I like it. Okay, let's check out the tremolo. So here it is without. I'm gonna turn the depth up to noon. And I'm gonna turn the rate all the way over to about 3 o'clock. So actually I gotta turn the depth up a little bit. So the depth is at about 2 o'clock. And this is where I like it. Okay, let's add a little bit of reverb to that. Okay, so that's my favorite setting on the amp without any type of drive or anything going into the amp. So now we're gonna do a little bit different. I'm not gonna do this for too long, but I'm gonna let you hear what it sounds like with effects. I'm gonna go directly into the amp because I tried the effects loop. And the effects loop is fine. It is a buffered effects loop. It's using the JFETs instead of tubes. The topology, again, there goes that word that in the context of electrical engineering, I do not understand. The reason I'm using it with you is because that's how it's described in the literature and in the videos that describe this amp. So don't accuse me of parroting or anything like that. I'm disclosing with you that I don't understand what that actually means, but it is how I've heard it described over and over again. So as far as the pedals, I got the Joyo Batson. This is a fantastic drive pedal. It has emulations of most of the popular drive pedals. I'm actually using the emulation called the Sweetie, and it's actually, I think it's the Joyo Sweet Drive. That's the best sounding one in this, other than the Timmy Overdrive and the, I believe it's the OC Drive, which is the full tone OCD pedal emulation also. Now I've got my Line 6 HX Stomp, and I'm only gonna use delay from that. And then the kicker is the Orange Terror Stamp, which is a 20 watt hybrid full-on amplifier. It has a tube in the preamp, a 12AX7 tube, and a 20 watt solid state power section, which I believe is a similar power section to this, Class AB, Class A bridged over Class AB, which I don't understand also, but I will tell you this. I keep pawing at this because I had my blood drawn today because I'm old and I have to have life insurance and I had to get a physical for it. It also turns out I've been saying I'm 6'1", and when measured, I'm actually 6'2", so go figure. Unlike most men, I've been underestimating my height, but that's neither here nor there. I had the Joyo, or I'm sorry, not the Joyo, the Duchess, the Victory Amplifiers Duchess pedal, not the V4 preamp, but the actual full amp. That amp used a Class D power section that was rated at 180 watts at 4 ohms, mind you. So I found an 8 ohm cabinet, which you may have seen on this channel before. That cabinet is from Quilter and it sounds fantastic. And I believe it's 90 watts at 8 ohms. Now that Class D amp did not project anywhere near as well as this is projecting right now, which is actually why I chose to get rid of that amp once I got the Orange Terrace Stamp, because the Orange Terrace Stamp at 20 watts with the solid state power section, it just sounded better to my ears. So let's hear some drive sounds. I'm gonna start off with the Terrace Stamp, and it sounds pretty freaking cool when you use these two together. So I'm gonna bypass my HX Stomp, and right now all you're hearing, I'm gonna turn the reverb off, turn the tremolo off. So right now you're just hearing the Terrace Stamp going into, and see we got a little bit of hair. Give you a little more volume. So that's just the Terrace Stamp. I have the gain on the Terrace Stamp right now at 11 o'clock. So the gain is very low. And I have the volume on the first channel at also 11 o'clock. So I'm gonna turn up the gain now. So, and the volume on the actual amp is also at 11 o'clock. So now I'm gonna turn up the gain. Volume a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go up a little more on the gain. So down on the volume, up on the gain. Loud right there. That's a good gainy sound, and there's still, so the gain is here. You've got until about here with gain left in the Terrace Stamp. So you can get really gainy with this if you want. Now I'm gonna back the volume of the amp down to about 9 o'clock. And that's a good volume. That's louder than an apartment volume. kind of clean up with my volume knob on my guitar too. So I can turn up the volume on the amp. Kick in a little bit of drive from this. So. Let's go in. That's how it sounds with the drive. Okay, now I'm going to take off the bypass on the line 6, and we're gonna hear some effects. So right now I've got the transistor tape echo. Got it on just as a slapback. That's how I like it. And I'm going to turn on a little bit of reverb. So we got delay and reverb. Turn on the tremolo. So I've got the depth at about 2 o'clock, and now I've got the rate at 3 o'clock, and let's just Okay, that's what I got for you on this amp. So that's the sound that I'll be using tonight. That was my song, Memorial. We play that song in our set and we'll be playing it tonight. If you're in the Los Angeles area, come and check it out. Now let's talk a little bit about the amp and why I'm sitting on the floor. I'm sitting on the floor because it's supposed to be good for you, and I am an aging professional athlete and I need to do things that are good for my body. Thankfully, I don't live a sedentary lifestyle, so I'm not sitting down all the time, but yeah, whatever, I'll take whatever is good for my posture and my mobility whenever I can get it. I can't even sit cross-legged. I never could, but whatever. That's enough. Let's talk about this amplifier. 40 watts. Now, to a lot of people are used to hearing like you need 100 watts solid state to gig, and that is completely not true. My jazz chorus is also 40 watts, and I gigged that at Harvard and Stone last week. Now, the jazz chorus has two 10-inch speakers. This has one 12-inch Voice of the World orange speaker. And I've had these Voice of the World orange speakers before. I've also had an orange combo this size, the Rocker 15, which is a 15-watt 112 combo. And that thing I would gig with. And I loved that amp. I just used the jazz chorus more. That's why I got rid of it. One thing that I'll say is this has a similar sound to the clean channel as that. But when I gained this up, it sounds a lot tighter than the gain was on the Rocker 15. And I've noticed that's kind of why I love the jazz chorus so much. Like playing it with fuzz pedals, playing it with a lot of grit, it's just a lot tighter. And these solid state amps, like I've played all solid state amps that don't have the feel under your fingers. This definitely does. You have to go play one for yourself. I'm sure they have it at your local Guitar Center or whatever. I love this amp. I will probably be holding on to this amp and have this be my second amp other than the jazz chorus when I get it fixed, because I'm not letting go of the jazz chorus. The Roland jazz chorus is the best amp in my opinion. You can fight me about it if you want it. B.B. King couldn't be wrong. James Hetfield couldn't be wrong. Robert Smith, just a load of other people who played it. You can get some really good sounds out of it, and I love that thing. But I'm also loving this so far. I love the tremolo in this. So I've been using tremolo on some of my songs from the HX Stomp, and the bias tremolo, the 60s bias tremolo is what the one in the HX Stomp is called. But this just sounds so much better being an analog tremolo. And I'm not one of those people who believes everything needs to be analog. I actually watched a video recently explaining why digital actually is analog. It is another type of analog. And when you add a high pass to certain things, a lot of the problems that you notice, like the chopped up frequencies in an MP3, they disappear because you're chopping off those higher end frequencies and you're only confining it to a certain point. So depending on the sample rate, it works. I have a rudimentary understanding on that based on the video that I watched. I watched it about 3 times to try to get as good an understanding as I can without a background in these sort of things. So yeah, I'm not that person. That's why I use the HX Stomp in general. But certain analog circuits just sound better. Like I also have a copy of the Memory Man, and that thing sounds better than the echo that I can get out of my HX Stomp. I choose to use the HX Stomp, however, because it's such a small amount of difference that it's just in the end not worth me sacrificing the versatility that I get out of the HX Stomp. But every once in a while, if I'm like recording a guitar thing at home and I want to like commit to the sound, I always go for that analog delay pedal over the HX Stomp. Now this amplifier is going to be loud enough for most of you guys, and it's like way too loud at like anything above like 9 o'clock. It's way too loud for the apartment. Like we'll see how it comes through when I get this off of the, when I go and dump this onto the internet, but it was freaking loud. One more thing before I go, I'm not sponsored by Orange in any way. Nobody donated this amp. I bought this amp with my own money. So I'm not beholden to Orange or anyone in any way. Only sponsors I have are skateboarding sponsors. So you'll never hear me talk about anything, at least right now on this channel, that's sponsored. And in the future, if I do, I'll disclose it. But just a sec. I have released vinyl, guys. And this is my song Down to Size, which came out last month. And I am eager for some of you guys to hear this. So you've heard the song Down to Size already on the channel tons of times. There will be a link in the description to where you can pick up this vinyl. Wow, the amp is like barely bigger than the vinyl, which is pretty freaking cool for something that loud. Puts out that much volume. Like being behind the amp, and it's a closed back cabinet, by the way, and being behind it, when I got up to like noon, it was way too loud even for me just sitting this close to it. And I'm someone who's had quite a bit of hearing erosion from the length of watching live shows and playing live music that I've done. But here's the back. There's the effects loop, send and return. This is a line out that's not emulated or anything, so you can use it for recording. And the tremolo's foot switchable. Orange sells a foot switch that's about the size of one of those mini pedals that you use. And yeah, you can foot switch on and off the tremolo with that. So that's everything about the amp. This is my record. This is Down to Size by Dreadward Bernays. It'll be linked below. Also, the streaming links to the song are there if you haven't checked it out. I really appreciate everyone who does. I hope this video gives you guys like a little better representation of the amp. The reason I decided to make it is because when I plugged into the amp, like it ruined my schedule yesterday. So basically I like 3 different times, like I sat down and I was supposed to play it for a second and then go edit a video, play it for a second and then answer some emails. And then I looked up and I had to leave to go teach my clients already. Or I had to get a TB test yesterday and I had to rush and go get the TB test. And like this freaking amp is just so fun and cool that it took my time more than I anticipated. So I love it. I'm gonna gig it tonight. And I wanted to make a video sharing it with you guys because of the complaints I saw in the comments section on all the videos that did review it. And I feel like a lot of the review culture on YouTube, like those people are bought and paid for. So they're not giving you an honest opinion. And you can see it in the way that they kind of dance around their own opinions of the product. So right now on my channel, I just want to give you the straight dope, if you will. This amp is great. I prefer it over the Rocker 15, which I had before. I prefer the sound of this over the Fender DeVille that I played at my gig this past Saturday, and over a lot of tube amps, to be honest with you. A lot of tube amps, and especially when you're in like, once you get up to like $2,000, a little more, like I got my Les Paul set up and the guy had a Studio Vintage 20, and that's like a $3,000 amp. That is a remake of the old Marshall Plexis. It's hand wired, and that thing sounds phenomenal. But for everybody else who's not gonna spend $3,000 on an amp, like my most expensive guitar costs that much, I'm not in a hurry to buy an amp that costs that much, especially a tube amp that's gonna have to be biased and repaired and all that stuff. Just no, ain't nobody got time for that. This thing punches way above its cost. It's $400 US. This video is getting long. I'm already over 30 minutes and I'm not gonna edit it. So thank you for watching. Peace.